Welcome back to This Is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to talk about Commander, Tough Rules, and Cool Interactions, episode 56. Today's episode is going to touch on an updated version of a classic rules boogeyman within Magic. We actually just recently got something similar to this with the Warhammer 40k card Toxicrene and how it interacts with Ashaya, and I covered that interaction in Tough Rules and Cool Interactions episode 49, so check that one out for more stuff similar to this interaction. And now on to the meat of this episode, and that is the newly spoiled card from the Brothers War Commander product called Rootpath Purifier. And it is a 3/4 elf druid for 3 and a green that says, lands you control and land cards in your library are basic. The obvious other half of this boogeyman is how this card interacts with Blood Moon, which is an enchantment that simply says that non-basic lands are mountains. But I'm going to do more in this episode than just tell you what the end result is. I'll be, of course, telling you why it is that this result happens. And also, I'm going to have some bonus bits towards the end of the episode to help clear up other things that I think may cause some confusion amongst players, new and experienced. Okay. So I don't do this often, but I'm going to start off by just getting it out there. If you have both Rootpath Purifier out on your battlefield, and then you or any other player have out a Blood Moon, then your opponent's non-basic lands will be mountains that have no other abilities than to tap for a red mana, and then your as-printed non-basic lands will continue to have all of their abilities and effects, and they will not become mountains, nor will they be given the ability to tap for a red mana. So, if that's all you came here to hear, thanks for watching. But for those of you who are more curious and really want to know the why behind this whole thing, let's dive into that. In Magic, we have lots of things that can apply continuous effects, and these continuous effects can apply to the same things. And so to help us figure out and determine the results of this, there is a section in the comprehensive rules called Interaction of Continuous Effects, also known as the layer system. And for those of you that want to check that out, it is in section 613. Of the comprehensive rules. And we will be specifically looking at 613.1d, which says Layer 4. Type changing effects are applied. These include effects that change an object's card type, subtype, and/or supertype. So when we read these two cards, we can see that they're both wanting to change things about lands. Specifically, the Purifier wants to add the supertype of basic to all of its controllers' lands in play and land cards in their library. And then the Blood Moon wants to look at all lands that lack the basic supertype and change their type from whatever it is to mountain. Importantly, I said that one wants to add and one wants to change. So, because these both apply in Layer 4, the type layer, they're fighting with each other as to which one will apply first. Sometimes in Magic, these sorts of scenarios when multiple things apply in the same layer, they come down to something called timestamps, which are covered in CR 613.7. But I will go ahead and tell you that this is not a matter of timestamps, because there is also one other thing that we can use to figure out the order, and that is by checking to see if a dependency exists. And this is covered in CR 613.8. And if a dependency does exist, it will override the timestamp system. So let's get into these dependencies first by defining this system. Comprehensive Rules 613.8a says that an effect is said to depend on another if A, it's applied in the same layer, and if applicable, sublayer, as the other effect. B, applying the other would change the text or the existence of the first effect, what it applies to, or what it does to any of the things it applies to. And C, neither effect is from a characteristic defining ability, or both effects are from characteristic defining abilities. Otherwise, the effect is considered to be independent of the other effect. And then, one last bit that I'll read is Comprehensive Rules 613.8b, which says, an effect dependent on one or more other effects waits to apply until after all of those effects have been applied. If multiple dependent effects would apply simultaneously in this way, they're applied in timestamp order relative to each other. If several dependent effects from a dependency loop, then this rule is ignored and the effects in the dependency loop are applied in timestamp order. Okay, that's a whole lot of text, but what does it really mean in relation to this Rootpath Purifier and Blood Moon situation? The Rootpath Purifier adds the basic supertype to all of your lands on the battlefield, and the Blood Moon will be looking exclusively for non-basic lands for its effect to impact. Because the Rootpath Purifier adding the basic supertype to your non-basic lands would change whether or not the Blood Moon would then apply to that land, it is dependent on that Purifier's ability. And it is because of that the Blood Moon will wait its turn for the Purifier to apply its effect first, and then the Blood Moon will apply its own afterwards. Now, on to some bonus bits. Yes, this is exactly the same result that you will get if a player has out a Magus of the Moon in play. It being a creature has no change on this. No, if there were multiple Blood Moons and or Magus of the Moons out, this wouldn't change anything in this specific situation of interacting with Rootpath Purifier. Yes, the Rootpath Purifier means that a card like Back to Basics would not stop your lands from untapping on your turn. Yes, the Rootpath Purifier does allow you to use cards like Harrow to search for any land in your library and put it into play. No, this does not allow for a card like Windswept Heath and other fetch lands search up any land in your library, because the fetch lands, like Windswept Heath, search for lands not because they are basic, but because they have a basic type. Basic as a super type and a basic land type are two very different things in the rules of Magic. A card like Dryad of the Elysian Grove does add the basic land type to your lands, but only those on the battlefield, not in your library. For this same reason, the Rootpath Purifier does not mean that you can now tap your Urberg Tomb of Yawgmoth now for a green or a red mana. Before, it was a non-basic land that had the swamp type, allowing it to tap for a black mana. And now, it is a basic swamp that can tap still only for black mana, because it's only a swamp type land. Yes, it's basic, but still only swamp type. And speaking of Urberg, or Borg, however you want to pronounce it, if you have it out, as well as a Cabal Coffers, yes, you of course make the Cabal Coffers see all the lands that you have out, including themselves, the Coffers and the Urberg. But if you have out an Urberg and a Cabal Stronghold, that ability only adds mana for the black mana for each basic swamp that you have. This means your other basic lands like Forest would be countered by the Cabal Stronghold. However, your Cabal Stronghold and Urberg themselves would not. Yes, they're swamps, but not basic swamps. But if you were to have Cabal Stronghold, Urberg, and Rootpath Purifier out all at the same time, then now the Stronghold would see all of your lands just as the Coffers does, with just the Urberg also being out. Okay, and that's just about covering everything that I came up with, although I'm sure that many of you, maybe some of you, may still have some questions. Either questions about how this layers stuff works, or maybe some specific card interactions. So please do ask those down in the comments section, and I'll do my best to reply and explain them as simple as I can, given that this is not simple stuff. For those of you planning to run the Rootpath Purifier, will you be doing so to take advantage of these stacked pieces that I've mentioned in this episode? Or do you plan to use it to just search out some lands more easily? If the latter, then what kind of lands in your decks will you be searching up? I'm just kind of curious as to what you guys are coming up with. Anyhow, that's all I've got for today's episode. As always, I hope that all of you found this video to be entertaining at least, and I hope that a few of you even learned something about these crazy rules in this great game of Magic. Have a good one. Ta-ta. And for those of you still sticking around, if y'all are some of the new people that just recently subscribed to the channel, I think I just picked up like 100 or so subscribers. I made a comment on Reddit, and somebody asked for what my channel was. I linked it, and it got a whole bunch of upvotes and karma, Reddit karma, or whatever you call it these days. And so, yeah, I do appreciate you all that have recently subscribed. That's awesome. I loved reading some of the comments. Some of you have mentioned that you actually didn't just discover me through Reddit, but you've actually been watching my channel for a while now, and that these videos have helped out your own personal games, but also some of you have been helping, using it to help your actual, like, your whole play group. So stuff like that is awesome for me to read. Every time I read one of those comments, I don't see them all that often because I don't expect to be recognized on stuff like Reddit and whatnot. But just reading those, it puts the biggest smile on my face. It really does mean a lot. The whole reason I do this is to help other players have better, smoother experiences in their gameplay, so that they can just better understand this ridiculous game that has thousands of rules and stuff going on. So yeah, that really makes me feel good. I like seeing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna shut up now and actually turn the video off. Okay, yep, thanks, bye. Hope you guys had a good happy Halloween. Ta-ta.